What happens when technology and human imagination collide? When artificial intelligence doesn't replace creativity but amplifies it? That's not the future. It's a digital renaissance happening right now. Welcome to La Mesa Talks. My name is Oscar Mota, and for the past 7 years, I've explored how creativity evolves in a world driven by innovation. Today, we will delve into one of the most exciting and more controversial frontiers to the day, the dynamic interaction between artificial intelligence and human vision. Our guest is Megan Fowkes, a global prompt engineering champion, award-winning designer, and one of the brightest minds reshaping AI-assisted creativity in the region. She has been recognized by campaign Emmys 30 Under 30 and has earned the title of #1 designer at Deloitte. Megan bridges the gap between traditional design and cutting-edge artificial intelligence, demonstrating that technology and human emotion are not adversaries, but creative partners. With a foundation in information design, she has influenced notable brands at Impact BBDO and Living Room. She's redefining what is possible when humans and machine collaborate. As a juror of the 2024 AI Film Festival, she stands at the intersections of art and emerging technology, proving that creativity is not being replaced, it's being reimagined. So grab your device, get your prompt going, and discover with me how human ingenuity and artificial intelligence is driving creativity into new realms. Megan, I'm super excited, and I was so much expecting this meeting with you and this conversation, because since I have met you, I've seen so inspiring work. I've seen how you push the boundary of what we do in the industry, how brilliant you've been, and also how kind you are, and just not gatekeeping, but sharing with all your fellow creatives what you do, how you do, and how can it improve you as well. So welcome to La Mesa Talks.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. I feel very special. It's super exciting to be here, and thanks for saying that about the not gatekeeping and all of that. I think that's one of the nicest things about this platform, is that it's great when you share and you can see what amazing things people are doing and can do with this immersive technology.
Absolutely. In that's a quality that creatives need to have. I always say when I'm having these conversations with guests, is La Mesa Talks is basically a document for my daughter and my son and our young creative community in the UAE, and just to come and learn from the best in the industry, from people that inspire us at the beginning, just to get going, from people that we've learned so much, but they can leave insightful and practical lessons to really how to make it and transform the creative industry. And that is, like we were discussing off camera and off microphones, kindness that is so much needed between our own industry, between clients and us with clients, and because it's not practiced anymore. It's just that during the hustle, you forget about kindness, you forget about...
It's true, yeah. I think also, like, when you share and all of that, you end up learning so much, and things you wouldn't necessarily have known if you hadn't sort of had that interaction. Like, I've taught like a course recently, and I've done some workshops, and there have been times where students have come up to me and they've taught me things that I didn't know. So I think it's like such a wonderful opportunity to sort of have like a really enriched creative life in this like crazy go world that we're all living in at the moment.
We're gonna get to learn a lot from you, I'm sure. I want to start from the beginning. AI, originally, as conceived, is a tool. And in order for you to use a tool, you need to have a set of instructions or a set of rules. In our case, it's very clear. We're calling them prompts. All right? This is just 101. Like AI 101, you need to learn how to speak to the machine. And you're a champion, like literally, you have a title of champion, which is absolutely fantastic.
I got an award, so
that is absolutely, mind blowing, because we have so much talent also in the UAE, in Dubai.
Yes, from all over the world,
that being able to win that is fantastic. But again, let's start from the beginning. Explain to me prompt engineering, and how is prompt engineering changing creative expression?
So I think it's a super important skill, especially now. But basically what it is having a conversation with the model. So the models use natural language. So as long as you can speak or type in any language, you can have this sort of conversation with the AI. And it's about having like really clear intent and structure and communicating this in order to get an output from the LLM or LoRa or whatever it is that you're using.
So you need to have specific parameters. Like it's like learning, let's say you learn Spanish,
Yes.
or you learn Afrikaans in this
Yes,
case
yes,
that you're
yes.
South African. It's learning to translate your vision.
Yes,
with language.
yes, exactly. And it's having that like clear, like I said, this clear intent and an idea, and putting that into a structure, and then getting that to generate an output for you. And that, depending on how good your input and your vision and your structure is, the better the output is going to be. Because if you're too vague, or you leave too much up to the imagination of the AI, you're going to get like very generic outputs, and you're not really going to get what you want. So the clearer you are, the more concise you are, the more structured you are, the better the structure is, the better your output is going to be. And I think that's what prompt engineering is knowing the right things to say and the way to say it in order to get whatever it is you want out of the execution.
And what's most importantly, you can build your words with other people's words as well. It's not that it's just a singular model for you. You can utilize other expressions or other structures or other ways to telling the story to the machine.
Yes, definitely. And it definitely, I think it's like a back and forth as well. It's very much like a conversation. You're never going to get it right on the first try. Even if you go back to like traditional design, if you're designing a logo or, doing an image, the first one is not always going to come out. Yeah. It's like the first one is always a bit, but the more you iterate, and I think that's what it's about, right? It's about iteration, and that's why generative AI is so great, because you can iterate so fast. And it's that back and forth, and then having that conversation to get to the final output, and like use it for what it's been designed for, right? So get it to add, subtract, but it's always you at the end that is making those key decisions in order to get that specific output.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the trajectory of the creative industry, or the creatives in general, really had just at a hockey stick acceleration because of this kind of tools. But we've all had to go through this resistance and transformation with tools and the use, right? I remember, I don't think you were even touching a computer, but I started with freehand, Macromedia freehand, before Corel and before that stuff years ago. When I was very young, I'm not a designer by craft, but I had contact with this because there's many artists in my family. But I'm very curious to understand, and it's fascinating to me because we're now talking slang and very much technical stuff and how to build the storytelling for the machine and the output and all of this. But there has to be a trajectory. And you started with traditional design for sure, because the experience that you have and these tools are not parallel. They came before you already started. So how all of this, how your trajectory was shaped creatively, and then how do you experience that acceleration at that point when you touched AI as a tool, and you understood it as a tool because you can sense by your body of work you're not threatened by it. It's like it's my weapon. It's like I'm not like it's not gonna take my job. No, I'm gonna get this and I'm gonna go and kill it. So how do you feel your trajectory was shaped into being open enough to use always and explore this new thing? And what type of acceleration did your career experience or your personally experience when you got in touch with this? Like, wow, I can do this.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think those like core fundamental principles of design that I learned when I was at university have really like structured my thinking, and it's given me the ability to be a director, right? And having like the taste and the knowledge and knowing what works and what doesn't. Because it's like, as you know, it's very easy to look at something and know that it's wrong and that it's not working, but to know why it's not working, I think that's where the knowledge and all of this sort of background skills comes in, and it's very important. And I think without that, you are not really going to get exactly what you want from the tools, because you at the end of the day are the director, or I think AI makes you more of a like what's it called, the orchestra, the maestro in an orchestra, the conductor. So I think it's given us more of a conductor kind of role, rather than just an execution kind of role, and so I've sort of forgotten your question.
So how was your trajectory shaped in light of, because it's almost a scientific approach, you know, since we started putting hands in walls with pigments. It sticks, it looks great, I can tell a story, I can represent this to imagine, like, you know, / imagine. I don't know.
So I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, where it's very much like having that clear idea and an intent. And when I touched these tools, it was so exciting. Like, just that firstly you could do it so fast, and it sort of helps you imagine things in a way you never necessarily would have done without the tool. So sometimes if you're a bit stuck creatively, using AI to sort of explore these things, because I think the reason we are so enamored by all of these like new tools that are coming out and the images that it makes is because we're seeing something that's never been seen before. And that's something I think we as people love. Like, if you've never seen a monkey riding a unicycle, juggling, I don't know, like little mugs or something like that, and you see that for the first time, it's really exciting. And I think that's what AI sort of brings to the table. It's this excitement that sort of I felt was sort of lacking a little bit before this sort of explosion. And I am a little bit like nerdy in these kind of things. So funny enough, when I was at university, I actually did my final paper on how I think AI is going to change the future of design. And when I did my paper back then, it was like Google experiments and a couple of other things. And you literally would draw like a circle and like a line on it, and it would guess that you're drawing like a basketball. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, wow.
Yeah.
And never back then, this was like in 2017, never did I imagine I would be doing things with it today that I'm doing now. So I've always been like a little bit like interested in like the technical aspect of stuff. I think also I'm a bit more of like a serious person, to see how something works and that it gives this like structure and routine. It's really changed my workflow a lot and helped me to like deliver faster and iterate quicker, and that bouncing back and forth of ideas to get from this space to this space
quicker,
really
so you can
quickly.
create more.
Yeah,
you cover
exactly.
More ground faster at a higher quality.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Learning a language, and it's very interesting how you detected back then. There's been artificial intelligence exercises for years since Turing. Actually, the Enigma computer was one of the first examples of artificial intelligence, and computing is just a result of that, right? So we've always thought of how do we enhance ourselves, right? Like the avatar exoskeleton. I always use this, but the machine has to learn from somewhere. And I've seen cases. I'm pro AI enhancing all the way. I'm evangelizing of us leveraging all these tools to hit harder, jump higher, and run faster. That's what we need to do. But we need to learn how to use them. Now, I've seen the other side, which is what I want to talk about, that are experiencing these tools or these enhancements as a threat, because there's a rationale behind that. These guys have to learn from somewhere, meaning that they're stealing something from someone, right? So statistically, a language model for just as in a nutshell, you know, it's ones and zeros, just the probability of words and tool and letters getting together for a reply.
Yeah.
Does it work the same in image? Like the black box of Midjourney works the same in terms of I have to go on and get examples from other artists for me to reach that point?
So it doesn't quite work that way. You are right in that it does like scrape the internet, and but it doesn't necessarily understand. So say you're creating an image of a cat.
Megan loves cats, by the way.
I do. I have
I think 60% of her personal body of works is cats, and it's the most amazing thing you will ever see. We're going to link everything.
Thank you.
You'll see.
Cats and foxes, because my surname kind of sounds like Fox. So I was like, oh, Fox. So, so the AI doesn't necessarily understand what a cat is, but it understands patterns. So basically what it is like it has this sort of like, it goes into, we're getting a bit technical now, but it goes into this like neural network, and it scrapes all of these things like, oh, a cat is a thing that has two ears and whiskers and this, and then it spits out an image, and then you'll be like, oh yes, this works, or no, this doesn't work, and then it sends it back and forth, and it's just this sort of like loop. So it doesn't necessarily work in how you said it before, but it's more of like a recognition of patterns, and this like reinforcement of what like those patterns, and so it kind of is, but also isn't at the same way, because it is generating something new based on like different patterns that it has in this like archive library. But I feel the same thing can be said for like, artists and designers.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I feel like the best artists steal and then
Picasso
just change it.
said this
And then what you
ago.
do is, as long as you put your own mark on it, or change it in your way that like suits whatever your needs are, or your tastes, and sort of take it that one step further. I don't really see it as being too different. I think it's the process.
The process is changing.
Yeah, the process is changing, but the initial idea and the concept it's kind of
is the same. And the power of output, the impact of the output changes because, for instance, clear example, Prince in Vanity Fair, I think it was. Warhol takes this picture, which is from a well-known photographer, and he produces a part of his body of work with this wonderful picture of this lady, of the artist formerly known as Prince. Years go by, and she says, well, he's profiting off my work, right? So it's we go back to fair use, right? And I think we've discussed this before in other instances, but I was just posing the scenario so you could have the chance to explain. The black box doesn't work like this. It's still mathematics. It's still probability. It still goes and see your thing, but it doesn't use your thing. It references your thing, which is what we always do.
Yes.
If you want to create, it's like La Mesa, we're creating a branding exercise and we have to benchmark someone else. We're going to go to Pentagram's work and we're going to references.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I love this.
Exactly.
And then you're inspired by that work.
Exactly.
And I think it's, in a way, it's kind of like a compliment, right?
Absolutely.
So if someone finds something that you've done to be like particularly moving and done it in their own way, I think it's the best kind of compliment you could ever receive.
Absolutely. And it takes me now, it's very interesting now that we're posing this statement that, and might be controversial for some, but basically is the machine, probability of the machine is complementing your work because it's referencing it, kind of. It's a little bit abstract, but you know what I mean. Now, from the perspective of the input giver, how would you think, or how do you work on giving input so the machine still gives an output that delivers that connection, that emotional connection that creative work usually has? Like, for example, you had this wonderful video clip of fat cats singing.
Oh yeah, like the chunky cats with like the rapping.
And rapping, and it just brings so much joy and emotion, but it's all done by a machine.
Yeah.
Well, produced by a machine, but it's done by you. But like how you manage, or how what's your process, or how would you advise into working that or refining that so you don't lose that emotional connection?
Look, I think that's super important, and I think it goes back again how we spoke about like those initial principles, and it's I think the most important thing is like conceptual thinking. Like, in order to create something, you still have to have an idea, right? And then something that I really love is just delight and like you said, bring joy, and like do it just because it's something that I loved. And so I think in order to sort of get something like that, it's a little bit of back and forth, but sort of having that like again, that clear intent, that conceptual idea, using all your different prompts or parameters or whatever, and combining them in how you sort of envision this thing coming to life, really gives like a different output. Because if you had to make a cat video and I made one, it would be quite different, because I think it's about taste as well, like knowing what works and what doesn't, and why it works and why it doesn't work.
And how do you feel with that idea? And so it's very interesting. You have taste, because our craft, our work is subjective. What we do is very subjective. You might think it works beautifully, and then a client comes
they'll
that
be like,
is 65 years old
Yeah,
and is
yeah.
like, lime green?
What
No,
is this?
what is this?
Yeah.
It's pretty much subjective, and it's very important that you balance out a lot of the things. And what I'm understanding, what I'm getting is you iterate also. You iterate a lot on that connection that you have with the output, right? So
Yes,
do you
yes.
use yourself as measure of this? Because sometimes you see something so many times that it works, but someone comes with a set of fresh eyes and it's like,
Yeah.
no, there's something missing, or it's overcrowded, or it's not really conveying the message. Do you use yourself? Can you detach yourself to play that role of judging?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's something that also comes with practice. And I mean, I'm lucky that I get to work in, all these like advertising industries. So it really, it toughens you up quite a lot to be more objective whenever you're working. And I think also a very important thing is like not settling for the first image or like what generation that comes out. And it's like keep trying, keep going again and again until you actually are happy with the final output. Because the first one is never necessarily the best one. Sometimes it is, but like often, like I did a video the other day and I wanted this bird to sort of fly across the screen. And it took me 52 attempts before I was happy and I got exactly what I wanted. And I think anyone that's used sort of this tech is super aware of how frustrating it is. Like, if you want to create something that's just for fun and it doesn't really matter too much what the output is, and whatever happens and it's great, that's cool. But when you're working with clients and they have very specific targets and KPIs and all of that you need to hit, it can be very frustrating, super frustrating, and very difficult to do. So it's just about like not settling and always pushing. And I think these sort of tools are great because it allows you to push and iterate like really quickly in order to get to that final output where everybody's happy.
It helps you. It helps you even innovate the tool. It shows you like the shitty output forces you to repeat that. It's the tool itself that inherently is telling you no, but by accident, but it happens. Now, what is fascinating is like, and it's something you said, and I was very lucky to be a part of a wonderful effort by Dubai Culture and Google, where we had the pleasure to meet. Megan was my teacher at this for a point in this boot camp, where I had a conversation with someone that leads innovation at Didi, and as an entrepreneur, as a creative entrepreneur, I always try not to struggle, but I find the struggle in how to balance out the two languages. I need to have a foot on the creative and a foot on the business. So I need to tell them how to comply to these KPIs, but I need to give them beauty.
Yes.
And cheap beauty. Like I like economical, not cheap, but like they don't want to pay too much, but they want to have the best now. And the conversation that I had with this gentleman was like, Oscar, you are right in thinking that. I think it's fascinating, but the problem is not theirs. The problem is yours. You are the one that needs to translate that language, right? So what is fascinating what you're saying is there's still this bridge. You're using this bridge, but it's a language. It's not going to make you a better artist or a better storyteller. You need to learn how to tell stories.
Yes.
Which takes me now again to, and I think, and thank you for sharing this, because it's fascinating to see from the inside how it works, because agencies, large agencies, are relentless machines of creativity.
Yes.
And you have one of the best talent, because they can afford the best talent, of course, but you have to keep the business in mind. You're developing a business. Every time you're creating art for a client, it gives the business the chance to sell more of that art to their client,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
how do you balance, Megan, in your daily life? Because you always strive for excellence in your design, but you also need to strive for the business bit. Like you're saying, you need to translate to KPIs. This 52 takes. It's like, what were you doing the past 2 hours? I was trying to get 52 takes of that goddamn beard. So you were happy.
Yes.
But the client doesn't understand. And then, oh, Megan, there's a new tool. You have to check it out. When? Like, how do you balance out those three, like the monkey on the unicycle juggling the
Yeah. It's super difficult, I have to say. So I'm really lucky because right now I'm at Saatchi, and we've sort of created this new AI unit where we predominantly we're only using AI in order to create all of our work and our inputs. And it's a little bit of an experimental unit at the moment, but I think it's like super exciting. And that's been really great because it's really allowed me to experiment and explore and given me time in my workday in order to sort of like, oh, Kriya has just released this new tool, or Kling has done a new elements and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, every week there's like a new release of something. So I'm quite lucky that like at the moment my actual day job does allow me to do this. But before this happened, when I was still working at Living Room, and then also when I initially moved to Saatchi, I would literally sit after work, after hours, and sit and craft and experiment and just play with it. And one of the first projects I did, which really allowed me to learn a lot, was like I made my own comic book. And in doing that and doing my own experiments, I sort of very much like learned this sort of language of like how it works and all of that. So it was a lot of like late nights and blood, sweat and tears, but having that knowledge and knowing how things work in my personal time really translated and helped me a lot in work and in doing it for a client. And in order to sort of balance the two, I think it's still, again, goes back to like having great conceptual ideas.
Yeah.
So without that like great idea, you're, regardless of how great the execution is, like, I mean, you throw a thing in Midjourney or animate it, it's still going to look amazing. But if it doesn't necessarily answer that question or the brief from the client, it's useless. So I think that's the thing, like having like a very structured, good idea, a great concept in order to explain whatever this goal is that your client is after. Having those two, like where innovation and technology sort of like come together.
Yeah.
And also having this knowledge, right, of having that and putting that in. And then again, it's this like collaboration between the machine and doing those iterations in order to have that sort of reach that vision that you've sort of like had in the beginning in order to answer this brief.
So I mean, and it gives a very hopeful message when an amazing company and so historical company like Saatchi is saying, guys, we need to invest in this, and investment is not necessarily on dollars. Let's put our best minds in it and see how can we be number one at this. But to reach that, like our space is evolving, and we're starting to understand that, yes, we need this. But do you think traditional agencies are adapting as quick as Saatchi is adapting, number one? And do you think, because it was very interesting, your story, your Nightcraft, did the business see this and say, Megan, you were right. We saw you crafting. come to the space or create the space. Do you think the adaptation goes in that direction, or is it just more a YOLO kind of thing that we have to throw in AI stuff?
Look, I think that agencies that are not pushing in this sort of direction are going to get left behind, and then it's kind of similar to what happened when social media sort of came onto the scene, and agencies that weren't doing things for social got sort of left behind and had to play this catch up. And I think this is just another happening of that, where soon clients are going to be asking for this AI content, and the ones that aren't are going to be playing this catch up. And it's sort of just like repeating history in a sort of way. And now every agency does social. Like if you don't do social, it's like, what are you even offering us, kind of thing.
It's a fascinating view, because I think historically you've had these breakthroughs when it's like that we remember social media, but before it was digital design or editorial digital design.
Yes.
And before was the storytelling and advertising, when the fathers of advertising as we know it started changing the game by telling stories differently, like telling the breakfast company, the cereal company, saying you're selling an experience, you're not selling a cereal. You need to tell the story different. And I was like, nah, what are you talking about, man? This fluff. We need to go straight to the point. Fast forward 70 years, and this is our life. This is like everyone does this with purpose. And I think it's a wonderful overview of things. Like you're on the inside, but you're pretty much an outsider within, because still, I don't know if clients really understand that by what it means. It's not that you can do something cheaper. It's that you can really bring Aladdin and jumping out of a building, jumping out of your building, and just singing your song, and it's just wonderful. How would now, like, downloading all of this information into insightful stuff, because there's a lot of young creatives looking at us and checking us, and I'm very grateful that we've had guests that we've talked about chaos and creativity and multiculturality and community building and wellness, but we need to have this sort of also technical conversations. I would say, like, okay, what do I want to teach my daughter if I want her to be a creative lead in this, or my son, or my team, right? So we want to talk about practical lessons. So what skills do you think, if you have to make a list, I don't know, a top 3, a top 5, whatever you want to call it, which skills are most valuable for creatives or for anyone to develop in this new landscape?
So I think number one is definitely conceptual thinking. I think that is the most important thing and the tool that you need in your arsenal in order to be successful, because now you are not only a director, but you're like orchestrating, right?
Yeah.
You're the conductor. I think that having good taste is the next most important one. And I think the ability to be a good storyteller and connect to your audience on an emotional level, I think that's something that's very important, and not everybody has that, and it's a very difficult skill. So those are the sorts of things that are really important, and I think it's also very important not to use AI as a crutch and let it do all the thinking for you, because if you're doing that and you're a little bit lazy and you're not coming up with those interesting ideas or taking those sort of sparks or seeds that the AI gives you and pushing it further, then you're going to get very generic, very average, unemotional work that people are not going to connect to. So it's about using this in your arsenal as like just one of your other tools in order to push your work further than anybody else is pushing it in order to connect.
The nature of the tool. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is one of the most celebrated and wonderful creative writers and film and literature and history, Colombian, he said something when he was teaching, because he was a nerd for screenwriting and for playwriting. He loved it. It was his true passion. And he said, if you want to learn how to write, you need to learn how to read. And what I'm taking from this, and just to circle it out, is if you want to learn how to create, you need to learn how to see, how to consume, how to identify tasteful, meaningful, purposeful content. Content of the likes of a video clip, a beautifully made cover of a book, or on an LP, or just a nice T-shirt, or a great color combination. You really need to know how to break down those patterns on the conceptual thinking. But I think the order that you put in the conceptual thinking and good taste and learn how to read and learn how to see and that storytelling just makes perfect sense because of this, and not being lazy, of course. Like, and I feel we could, I have the fortune that I say this every time. I feel I could be talking with my guests that are my friends for hours, for hours and days. It's been fascinating, but I want to start closing our conversation and to just again continue on the practical pathway of these ideas. With these skills that we've discussed, what advice would you give to new creatives into how to not only pursue this dream of creativity, which is wonderful and wonderfully difficult, but how to navigate all these changes? Because, like you say, weekly, I have to work and I have to train. I have to work and I have to train.
Yeah, it can feel very overwhelming, and like you said, there's so much happening. It's hard to always keep up, but I think it's about just playing with it and having fun and being curious and not being afraid to sort of make mistakes or not know what's going on, because this is something that is so new that there's very few people that I would really call experts in the field. Even me, I'm learning new things every day, experimenting with other things, asking my friends, what are you doing? How are you experimenting with this? And sort of collaborating with them. They teach me things, I teach them things. So I think it's about, just having fun, being curious, and just being unafraid to play.
What tendencies or what trends are you seeing now in storytelling when we're talking about playfulness and playing? So where are the trends going now?
So I think initially it was very like gimmicky and people were using it more as like novelty, but now I'm seeing a lot more in like animation, visual effects. I think like AI avatars are going to be like a very big thing as well. We're going to see a lot of brands coming out with like avatars, voice, and I think those are probably the biggest ones that we're going to start seeing emerging, especially in film and using AI in order to reimagine things in a different way we've not necessarily thought of before.
So do you think it would become an end? It's not going to be used anymore like as a preview of an output. It will become the output itself.
Yeah. So I think what we're going to see is like taking original work or something that you filmed and then adding like AI as sort of like a veneer over the top, and taking it from here to here, or like changing it in some sort of interesting way in order to get something new.
Very interesting. So you think that creative education is changing as well from now? Have you experienced any of that? Like that you're an educator yourself.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think there's so many people that are really curious about it, and I think it's a great thing because it's very much democratized the way you execute. So, you don't necessarily have to be a creative or working in the creative field in order to come up with good ideas. Anyone can have a great idea, but now you sort of have the tools available in order to bring those ideas to life. So I think we're going to see really amazing, incredible stuff coming from unexpected places. And it's going to be a very interesting next couple of months, years. Where
I was going to say months or weeks because
it's scary. It's scary how fast it's changing.
You have to ride the wave.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to ride the wave.
Yeah.
We usually close our conversations, and thank you. Really, what a great thing to have had you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your work so much. We usually close with what we call quick fire questions. So just short questions, just answer whatever it is that come to your mind. Favorite AI tool for creative work right now?
Midjourney.
That's the base for your work.
That's the one.
Awesome. Most overrated use of AI?
Oh, gimmicky content.
Yeah.
I think.
Books or resources that you can recommend to young creatives?
Evolving AI on Instagram.
Evolving AI. At Evolving AI.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they're
We're
called.
going to find it. I'm going to link it. Morning experimentation or late night creative sessions?
Oh, late night for
Late
sure.
night for
yeah,
sure.
night owl.
Amazing. What's the best piece of assisted work you've recently seen that moved you emotionally? It's not like, wow, it's fantastic, but like really moved you.
Am I allowed to say something that I've made myself?
Yeah.
So I'll give you two. So I made this little sad fox video.
Okay.
And every time I watch it, I sort of like cry a little bit. But there was also something called Kitsune, which is also another story about a fox. Obviously, I have a theme, which I thought was very good. So
We're going to get all of that and we're going to share with you because it's really fantastic and inspiring work. Megan, it's been such a pleasure to have you. And I've repeated this 100 times and I will repeat it 100 more. We always learn from unexpected places and we appreciate very much what you do and the lessons that you've shared with us. Today, Megan has shown us that AI is not replacing, but it's just basically enhancing magic human creativity. It's amplifying, it's challenging it, it's helping us operate it faster, higher, stronger, further. Remember that these tools that have emerged now are for you to use wisely and to really push the limits of what you can do. My name is Oscar Mota. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you, Megan. And I'll see you on the next one.